Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to ICMCI Asia Pacific Hub in 2023. We have participants, imagine, from 5 continents, all right? They are in alphabetical order: Australia, Austria, Armenia, Brazil, Canada, China, Caribbean, Costa Rica, Italy, Japan, Jordan, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Nigeria, Mongolia, of course, Philippines, Romania, Russia, Singapore, South Korea or Korea, Thailand, United Kingdom, United States, least but not last, Zimbabwe, right? Now, we thank the Mongolian Management Consultants Institute for organizing this meeting, and ICMCI for your support in our journey. COVID-19 taught us that we live in a world that is uncertain and a rapidly changing market landscape. We are still navigating imbalances and headwinds. How do we take the new normal to the new future? How can we better prepare clients to master crisis management and in the power and benefits of resilience and agility? Resilience and agility are now essential mainstays for recovery and revival, as well as sustainability. The speed and efficiency at which we recover from adversity can be the difference between success and failure. Consulting is an incredibly competitive industry, which means that the pressure to seek new skills is always present. We need to invest in acquiring new capabilities through skilling, upskilling, and reskilling to stand out from our competitors in a crowded market. How do we respond, foresee, adapt to emerge stronger? We need to embrace a new mindset, challenge established thinking, redesign our value proposition, be impact-driven, and find new ways to take advantage of the new virtual world. As a global community, we are at our best when we learn, grow, connect, lead, and inspire together. Today, we have an amazing lineup of diverse speakers to share multiple perspectives to broaden our horizons with new learnings. It is now my honor and pleasure to invite our ICMCI Chair, Robert Bodenstein, for the opening remarks. Robert Bodenstein, our Chair, is a management consultant with a strong focus on strategy, sustainability, and digitalization. The floor is yours, Robert.
Thank you, Lydia. Good morning to the part of the world that is always ahead to us. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Artantoya, for organizing and setting up this topic. As you mentioned, Lydia, it is highly important to deal with the past, to learn from the past, but to deal with the present. But it's the future where we invest our time in, and this is so good to have the past, the present, and the future as a topic on your agenda. I want to keep it short because I do have a small slot to present our thoughts of how to implement the ICMCI strategy to bring answers, maybe to bring answers for the challenges, the challenges of the present, but of the future, of course, too. All the best for the meeting, all the best for the future management consulting, all the best for the industry. And I hope to see you soon in a couple of minutes when I present ICMCI strategy.
I'm delighted to invite Dr. Bhagama Sanjak, Principal Manager of Advice for Small Business SME, F&D at the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, to speak on support to SME development through advisory services in Mongolia. Over to you, Dr. Bhagama.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you all organizers for really organizing this very important meeting. Of course, during the time of uncertainties and crises that are like becoming our everyday work, the work of consultants cannot be neglected. And we can see in our work that the demand for the consultancy services is increasing every year. And it was, we are quite happy at the EBRD that we could support this conference of today by being the gold sponsor. And the mandate of EBRD, as people well know, is to foster the transition to the open and competitive market economy. And for this goal, of course, supporting the growth of private sector and especially the SMEs is essential part. So how we are supporting SMEs? We are supporting to build a resilient and at the same time competitive consultancy market that really helps SMEs to find their own way of development, especially during these times. So my short presentation will be about what EBRD Advice to Small Businesses team in Mongolia did in past, and what is our current situation and what we are planning in future. And now I wanted to share my presentation. As I told you, the EBRD is helping small and medium enterprises by developing local consultancy and international advisory services. So as of now, you know that we are working in more than 34 countries, and starting from Morocco and stretching out to Mongolia. And what we are doing actually, we are working as a bridge between the consultants and micro and small and medium companies. So we're really working to make our projects as much as possible to meet the current need of the companies. And we are trying to reach not only big or large companies, but also really, really micro and small ones. And for that, we are using the cost-sharing mechanism that we will enable the micro companies to get access to know-how. And I believe that there are a lot of consultants that are already working with EBRD in the consultancy projects, but our advice normally is targeting to improve the business efficiency of the companies. And that actually spread over 5 different topics. starting from the strategy, marketing, organization, operation, ICT, engineering solutions, quality management, and the next two types of the projects are becoming more and more important for EBRD. It's actually transforming the companies to the green, to adhere to the green economy principles, which is energy, resource efficiency, environmental management, and also, of course, if there is a need for the financing, then we are doing the accounting and improvement financial reporting projects. So with these tools, what are the results of EBRD in Mongolia? So we are active since 2001, and at the moment we nearly reached 1,000 projects. So for the country, like for a small country like Mongolia, 1,000 projects, it's really quite a considerable number. And these 1,000 projects are covering about 700 clients, because especially during the COVID time, with the crisis time, we were doing many repeated projects. To do those projects, we were always raising funds from the donors, and the main donor of EBRD in Mongolia is European Union. And with this project, with this 1,000 projects, if you can see that about 67% of the companies that implemented projects, consultancy and advisory projects, increased the turnover. And that number also covers the difficult years of COVID, when many companies were closing their doors. However, we will see that average turnover growth dropped from 40% to 26%. And this is really an effect of COVID at that time. The next, we also checking the employment opportunities created by the companies, and you can see that 62% of the companies increased employment, and this 3,000 employment numbers is the numbers that also covers the COVID period. And about 38% of the clients are also having access to finance. We were also checking whether what companies in which sectors are applying for the consultancy projects, and then you can see that we reached really a diverse number of the industries, where the highest portion is actually food and beverage sectors, and then followed by the construction, health, and textile and wholesale retail projects. Then we also can see that 1/3 of all companies are coming from rural areas. So it means that not only urban companies are looking for advisory services. And if we see the spread over the size of the companies, the highest number of the projects fell into the clients with a employment number from 10 to 15, which means small companies, but still micro companies are applying for the projects. And we can see that about 24%, 1/4 of the companies are medium companies, and there are few that are medium plus, which means the companies which have more than 250 employees. And the next slide I want to share with you is what kind of consultancy projects are implemented during this time. So for more accurate data, I took the data from 2016 to 2022, which is really more recent data. And you can see that most of the projects actually fell into the strategy sector. And our observation is that depending on the market macroeconomic situation of the country, the type of the consultancy service also varies. For example, during the time of the growth of the macroeconomic indicators, or during the time of crisis, like it was last 3 years, many companies are questioning where they are going to go and what will be the economic situation for them to grow. And that's why probably we have really high number of strategy projects. The second type, the highest number of the projects is quality management, and it is due to the stricter quality assurance and the knowledge of the people on quality of what they are consuming and what they are using in their daily life. So, and then quality management is becoming one of the strong competitive advantages of the small and micro companies. The next most spread consultancy projects are this ICT, or the digitalization, and I think nobody would doubt that now, especially during the COVID time, the digitalization or digital transformation of the small companies became really important. And the last but least important was still marketing. And here we also checked digital marketing, platforms, e-commerce are becoming quite a demanded consultancy service among micro and small companies in Mongolia. In parallel with local consultancy projects, we are also supporting companies to have international advisory projects where we are trying to bring the world best know-how to the Mongolian companies. And here, as you can see, about 70% or 2/3 of the projects are improving the organizational processes of the companies. And the next is marketing, and then production development. So having had this many projects, yeah, I already mentioned briefly in the first slide, one of the first slides, what were the results. And here a little bit more details. We are doing the monitoring or evaluation of our projects 1 year after the consultancy project has been implemented, and we are following OECD standards. So, and here you can see a small company which is in the printing business, which was really affected by the COVID and lockdown. And I think everybody knows how difficult it was for the printing companies during these times, yeah? So, and they had with us a consultancy project, and after 1 year, and it was actually an HR policy, as the company was really closing the door during those times, and they wanted to know what to do now with the, how to improve the HR, yeah? And then you can see that after 1 year, they have stabilized the business, and the annual turnover increased by 112%. The next OECD criteria which we take into consideration is the employment generation. And I mentioned to you earlier that during this time we created 3,000 new jobs. And here a case of the small dental clinic that did with us a strategic planning of the company. And after 1 year, the company increased the employment by 73%. And the last but not least, of course, for any company that are implementing strategic projects or any consultancy projects, there is a demand for improvement, for new investments, and we are checking whether the companies are really had access to finance, that they were able to implement the recommendations of the consultants. And as I mentioned you earlier, about 40% increased the secured investment. In total, it was about 77 million of euros, and in median, it is 154,000. And there is a construction company which did with us a strategy project, and as a result, they acquired a loan as well as increased the efficiency and the turnover. So, of course, for us, the capacity of consultants is very important. And for that part, we are, of course, in many cases, cooperating with our Mongolian Management Consultant Institute. As well, we are doing a lot of training and events for local consultants. As of today, we have more than 200 local consultants that are registered and pre-qualified in our consultant database, of which 145 or 76% are active. And with that number, I would like to reach the Mongolian consultants that are today present to update the information in our database. So a lot of our clients are coming back to us and saying that they cannot find consultants, and we are really facing some challenges to propose or promote the local consultants that would be available during the time the company wants to do the project, or have the correct contact numbers that the companies can reach them. So therefore, I would really like to urge local Mongolian companies to reach out to us and update the information in our database. For us, of course, bringing more and more local new consultants is priority. And as you can see, only during 2020 to 2022, we registered more than 40 new local consultants. And we would like to register more. So if you know good local consultants that are doing this business, please also reach out to us. So I think below you can see the list of the events that we organized for consultants. And it's a different Grow Your Consulting Business training series, starting from the business diagnostics, going to how to run your business, consultancy business, project management, project monitoring evaluations, and etc. So we also do quite a lot of trainings for consultants to be able to do expert readiness assessment for the companies. And one of our very new development is we are helping local companies to learn how to do the assessment of companies on franchise ready. So franchising is becoming one of the very interesting fields of local companies looking on when they are expanding their business. So there is always a question whether they want to build more and more branches, and by this have a lot of HR and also operational issues, or whether they want to develop a franchising model that could be also worked well. So we did this training together with the international consultants for local consultants, and by now we have 3 local consultants that have graduated the first 3 modules, and this type of the services is becoming available for local consultants. A code of conduct is always priority for EBRD, and we are promoting among consultancy network the code of conduct, the ethical codes of the behavior of the consultants when they are doing local consultancy projects. And from last year, we started master classes for consultants, where we are addressing new developments, new challenges, and new opportunities for the consultants to run their business, especially the digitalization point is taken into consideration, and those masterclass digitalization as well as helping the development of green economy. So those master classes are available on our website. So if you would like to look at them, please go and check. So and probably you are surprised what is this pie is about. Is actually spread of our pre-qualified consultants in our database. And you can see the highest number of consultants are indeed in the strategy sector, followed by the ITC sector, then digitalization, the HR and marketing. But however, still we have difficulties when the company is approaching us and asking for consultants. So I really want to again emphasize how important for EBRD is now to update our database. So, and lastly, but not least, I would like to go to our strategy priorities. And now my slide is, okay. And now I would like to go, what is ahead, how EBRD is going to continue. So, in our strategies for 2021-2025, EBRD has put three main areas of the focus. So EBRD will focus green, inclusive developments in the countries of operation, and we also will help the digitalization to move forward the digital transformation. So by 2025, in all our investment, in all our activities, 50% will be in the green, low carbon economy. And here, of course, our consulting service is essential and crucial. So to help MSMEs to understand what is their role in promoting green economy is really priority for EBRD. And that's why we already started reaching out to local consultants on equipping them with the different tools to understand this area, and also to change their, let's say, consultancy work into prioritizing the green economy or low carbon economy. So we will continue in this direction. And in Mongolia last year, actually about 40% of all our projects were already in green tract or green core green projects, which means even, for example, if it is an HR project, we are really pushing an element in the project that that the company takes low carbon economy knowledge to the staff, and then also develops the habit of the company as well as the staff to adhere to this low carbon economy or to the green economy. Inclusion, of course, women in business, youth in business are key priorities in EBRD. And here in Mongolia, we already started women in business. And for us, women in business is actually the MSME where the decision-making role is with a woman. So, and we are actually running this women in business project in our countries of operation from 2015, but in Mongolia from 2020. So please reach out to us if you are interested on this. But inclusion, it does not stop here. We also will go to the most remote areas where access to know-how is still limited. Here, I would like to mention again that we want to build a really consultants in the areas where the companies are operating, in very remote IMACs, very remote provinces, villages, that really will help the companies by being near to them. As we all see that bringing consultants from the capital city to the rural area always costly. At the same time, it's not possible every day. So that's why we will now concentrate on developing consultancy services in the local areas.
Dr. Bagaimana, sorry to interrupt you. We are running late. Can you wrap up in 2 minutes? Because there's a lot of questions. I think we cannot entertain all the questions, but I'll try to ask you 1 or 2 from the chat.
Okay, well noted. And it was already my last slide and last point, actually. It is a digital transition or digital transformation that we are really want to accelerate. And that was actually really emphasized by the COVID. Yeah. So today, without digitalization, the company cannot work, as well as the consultant. Yeah. So that's why we will be helping the companies and consultants to do this digital transformation. So probably this is my last slide. It's here my contact numbers. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the very impressive, I would say, support that you're giving to the Mongolian economy. We have a lot of questions in the chat, but I in the interest of time, maybe I should just ask you 1 or 2 questions, in the sense that you talk about Mongolian consultants. As you know, ICMCI, we have a rich reservoir of excellent, seasoned professional consultants around the world, all right? Is it possible for our consultants in different countries to register with EBRD and consider to take some of your projects? I know that the Mongolian language could be a bit of a challenge, but what if we use an interpreter or something like that? Okay, don't mind, because a lot of consultancy are interested in doing projects in Mongolia, but how do we go about it?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I was mainly talking about the local consultancy project in this presentation, but we have international advisory projects in the parallel, and actually these numbers are not so big. And normally for international advisory projects, we are looking for the best know-how from the world community. So, and then I think the database for international consultants is run by our HQ, head office. And at the same time, I know that we have more than 3,000 international consultants already registered in our database. And it's always growing, and it's always open to be registered. Please reach out, and we can direct you to the person in charge who is doing it. The other source of reaching out to us is LinkedIn, where we normally put ads on when we are looking for international consultants or international advisors. So in case of international projects, we are hiring the advisors, not the consultants. So, and then in LinkedIn, you will see then and when that we are looking for consultants in the field of, for example, digitalization or the sector fields, yeah. For international advisors, very important is sector where they're working or gain the best knowledge, yeah. For example, like Kashmir or light industry sector or fashion sector or retail, or food and beverage. So this is mainly for the international advisors. Okay. If they want to work on our local consultancy projects, I think they can pair with our local consultants companies and then do the projects. We had similar cases earlier, and then if the company wants to have this kind of the consultancy, that also can be managed. Yeah.
Okay, that's an excellent answer. and your excellent sharing. We learned a lot from you today because a lot of our consultants around the world are interested to participate. Maybe they can reach out to you, Dr. Bagamai, and then you could direct them to the right person or even yourself. All right. So
Sure.
yeah, thank you so much for your time. Now we have to move on. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Now we move on to our ICMCI chair, Robert Bodenstein. And as I've said, Robert is a management consultant with a strong focus on strategy, sustainability, and digitalization. All right. So, Robert, please, over to you.
Thank you. I hope you can see my presentation screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good, very good. Well, thank you for inviting me to present what we as ICMCI are planning for the implementation of our strategy. And thank you very much for bringing me the insight from the client side, from the EBRD side, because that's always we need to have an eye on that. It's not a self-purpose for ICMCI, but we need to meet the requirements of the clients actually, and we need to meet the requirements of the consultants. And if as long as we can match both together, then we fulfill our strategy. I want to highlight some major outcomes of our face-to-face board meeting we had in March in Amman. And first, I want to highlight what are we planning for promotion of the CMC and to win more consultants to achieve the CMC certification. I think all in all, it's a journey to become a CMC. It's a journey that starts most probably, and in many cases, with the ISO training, which is what we call the entry level. And that is the level where we can win many consultants to become an ISO trained consultant. But of course, that's not the end of the journey. The end of the journey is the CMC designation. And what we are thinking about is how can we make this journey a little bit more concrete and a little bit easier to understand when you start the journey. Because when you start it, you see a lot of time to invest. Sometimes you see a lot of money to invest to become a CMC. And it's not always easy to understand what's the benefit, what is in it for me. And therefore, we are planning to set up what we call ICMCI registered consulting. And this is a level, that's a new level. It's not the full CMC. It is a consultant that has, if the CMC has, let me say an example, 100 points, the ICMCI registered consultant would be something like 75 points. And that could be a consultant that is specialized in a certain field of knowledge. It could be specialized in a certain industry. It could be certified in some, to some extent from an academic level. But in many cases, they don't have the experience. They don't have the practical hours that they can prove, and so they are not ready to become a full CMC. And we want to bring this intermediate level. This is very important for the IMCs because the IMCs need to adapt their promotion and to adapt their training programs. It could be this ICMCI registered consultant could be, for example, to address the cooperation with EBRD. It could be something that is set up together with EBRD. It's not the full CMC designation, but it's an EBRD registered consultant with the knowledge and the know-how of ICMCI in terms of the competence framework. we don't have enough time to go through this full strategy with regards to the new CMC, but I just want to highlight that we do have the IMC, what we call the IMC stream, and we do have ICMCI, and there is some overlapping area with regards to the trainings. That could include that ICMCI is developing trainings with a special focus. Let me say, for example, a focus for international relationship in management consulting, for example. And we could accept other streams from other training or knowledge provider like academia or other training providers. But they need to be assessed in terms of they are ready to provide the appropriate knowledge and know-how to meet the requirements of this new intermediate level of ICMCI registered consultants. So, for example, if we do have many universities that provide MBAs in management consultancy, if these MBAs meet our requirements, why don't we let them in at this level? As they will not become a full CMC because they don't meet the requirements with regards of practical hours they delivered. And why don't we try to be more open for other educations and other trainings to let them in at the end of the day to become a CMC? And I want to emphasize this is to protect the CMC. It's not something that is undermining the CMC strategy. The gold standard is still the CMC designation. Something completely different I want to address, but this is important for our full strategy. I want to address another topic that we had very long discussions about, and as I showed on my first slide, this is a long discussion process that started actually 2 years ago. Actually, we have this discussion process on and on and on, but now the concrete outcome is we want to foster the hubs. And as you see in this event for today, we have so many consultants, so many colleagues joining the hubs. But some hubs are more successful than other hubs, and we are sure that we need to be as flexible, and we call it as agile, to give the hubs the required tools and the required setup, the required governance to do their jobs, to be the link between the IMCs and ICMCI. I want to address what we call communities. We need to be more open for other communities, but we need to also be open for new ideas, new developments in the markets, to be more open for the future, like when we talk about sustainability in management consulting or digitalization. We heard these both topics already today in the EBRD presentation. We need to develop knowledge, share experience, and that is what we call communities. And we want to be more open for organizations that are not necessarily organizations that represent the management consulting industry, but they are linked in some regards with the management consulting profession. And we want to be open to join them, to be part of our community. So what does it mean for the hubs? And maybe you have time a little bit later to discuss what does it mean for the hubs a little bit more in detail. The purpose of the hub is to connect consultants on the regional level. It's like we see now in this event today, to connect with hubs in the Asia Pacific area, to meet what is the specific situation in this area, what are the requirements, what are the developments. Of course, they are more or less the same in the whole world, but they are a little bit specific in the different parts of the world. That starts with language and ends with political conditions that need to be addressed. Like in Europe, we do have a different layer of politics. We have the European Union that is very important, but it's the European Union is not, we don't have a European Union IMC, but somebody needs to represent the profession on political level. And I'm sure in the AP Hub, there are also different political organizations that are not on national level and not on global level, but on AP region level. And that is why we say it's so important to connect to stakeholders on regional level, because that is actually the benefit for the IMCs, and at the end of the day, benefit for the consultants that they can get from the hubs. This is why we ask the hubs to set up a business plan, to say, okay, in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, we want to achieve these goals. This is what we want to focus on. These are the resources that we need. This is the required structure. And this is how we set up the plan for a certain period. It's up to the hubs to set up for how many years you want to set up the business plan. But what is essential, we need to have a common understanding and what is the benefit for the IMCs. Because if the hubs don't deliver purpose for the benefit for the IMCs, we do have a problem. And therefore, the benefits for the IMCs need to be understood and agreed by the IMCs. And this is where we need to inform the IMCs. This is our focus as the Asia Pacific Hub, for example. We want to address these stakeholders on regional level, and therefore we need the following resources. The final terms of reference will be published in the next months, I hope. This is some detailed work to do, but it's not fundamental changes. So I invite you to start discussing about how to set up the strategy, and the outcome of the strategy of the AP Hub will be the business plan. And I think it's worth to start the discussion. And I see it's on the agenda already in your today's meeting. And I'm confident that we can support, we as ICMCI, we can support the hubs to set up this very short, maybe 2 pages, 3 pages. We don't want to have full books to understand. It should be very focused and very pragmatic. The other things I want to go a little bit deeper is the idea about setting up communities. And I said in the introduction, responding to the developments of the management consulting profession. And again, it's really important to understand what is the benefit and the impact on the IMCs. The IMCs need to have a concrete benefit from the communities. We don't have communities by now. It's a new structure. We do have something like communities, like the Future of Consulting communities. And because this community is very successful, we said, okay, let us have an idea. How can we promote this idea of setting up something that is not stick to a region, and it's not part of the ICMCI governance in terms of our structure? How can we use this experience from the Future of Consulting initiative to learn, to be more agile, and to be more open for new target groups and stakeholders, like young professionals? That is very often mentioned in many discussions. How can we address, how can we approach young professionals, because they are the future of our profession. And the way to become a community is actually the same like it is for the hubs. It's also necessary to set up a business plan, because if we set up a new community, we need to have a common understanding. What are your goals? What do you want to do? What is the benefit for the IMCs? The IMCs need to support the business plan. It's necessary, if we set up a new community, that there is at least a small number of IMCs that say, okay, we are supporting this initiative. If we don't have something like 3 or 5 or maybe 6, 7 IMCs that support a new community, then we don't need this community, because then it might be a very good idea to deal with, but if this idea is not appreciated and acknowledged by the IMCs, it would be investment in something that nobody would benefit from. And it's the same like for the hubs. The business plan for communities is also setting up what are the required structures. Do they have a chair? Is this chair elected? Is this what are the resources that are needed? Who is if necessary do we need financial resources, and who is paying for the resources? Because ICMCI, we don't have the fundings to invest in communities. We can invest in terms of some resources, but it needs to be something that need to be considered when the business plan is set up. So the hubs and the communities they are quite close. It's not the same because the hub is an ICMCI structure. They already exist, and we always will have the hubs because they are necessary. And I would say they're critical for the implementation of the ICMCI strategy. And as I mentioned in my introduction, with regards of the how to become more open and more agile, we had a very long and intensive discussion about how can we approach other stakeholders that are not part of a community, that are not part of the hub structure, but like EBRD or like UNIDO, or maybe like big consulting firms, or maybe international consulting firms, because international consulting firms, it's always the questions, where are the member in which IMC? It could be academia, it could be other organizations that are active, not in the management consulting business, but very close, like IT organizations or organizations like the project management organizations. We would like to connect with them because in many regards, we think that it is necessary to build and to foster the community of the knowledge-based industry. That's the main topic. But it also could be another management consulting representation organization in a country where we already have a member, which should not compete existing members. But let me bring the example. In many countries, we do have two different organizations. One is representing the firms and one is representing the individuals. And some countries have the members representing the firms in ICMCI, and some countries have the members representing the individuals in ICMCI. And they usually collaborate on national level very, very good because they don't compete each other. They have different target groups, but they have the same interest to some extent, not to any extent. But why don't we try to set up some linkage to management consulting organizations, not necessarily as a member? And this is why the headline of this slide is, we call that observer status. It is observer status, it's not a membership. Observer status means they do not have voting rights, they cannot contribute in the membership, in the committees. They can not be part of they can participate, of course, in the annual conference, but they will not participate in the annual meeting. This should make us more open, and it should give us the chance to address more stakeholders, to open our community, and to be more flexible in addressing new members for our members, of course. There might be a small fee. There will be a small fee. It's not a might, it's a will. There will be a small fee. It might be something like 70 or 100 euros a year. It's just to acknowledge that we are, they have the observer status. And if it would be totally for free, I think it's not, it wouldn't value this status. I want to address some other outcomes of our strategic face-to-face board meeting. First of all, I want to mention that we succeed in the UNIDO project. The UNIDO project is very close to what ICMCI, or in specific IMC Mongolia, is doing with EBRD. We are supporting UNIDO in the training and in the education of management consultants with regards to development programs. And now we as ICMCI, we provide our competence framework, and we discuss in that case with UNIDO, what are the technical requirements for the specific program you want to deliver to a certain part of the world, or to a certain part of the of industry, wherever. And that might be the starting of a very fruitful collaboration in future. Now the time is going by so quick. I just want to address one out of this slide. The last line is the new ISO committee has been established. It is the secretariat is in China, and for now we are waiting to set up the initial meeting and to set up the structure for the new ISO committee. The new ISO committee has the purpose to address how can we improve not regulations, but transparency for our profession, and what can we do to support our clients to understand better what management consulting services are about. It's not to set up a new standard, but the outcome might be that the ISO 20700 standard will be a little bit adopted or not. We don't know that for the time being. We do have 5 years time for the next recertification process, and so that has been established. And I invite all of you to ask your national standardization body that they send you as a representative of the industry in your country to attend the committee meetings. Okay, that is very quick, and I tried to win some time, but I hope we do have some time for discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much, Robert, for the forward-looking and visionary strategy of ICMCI going forward under your leadership. Thank you. Unfortunately, we are running behind time. Perhaps those who have questions, sometime this afternoon, you may have an opportunity to ask Robert question, if we may, later on when we come to the discussion part. Maybe we can cover that because we are really running late. We have to move on. I hope you don't mind, Robert. I hope you don't mind. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, I'd like to introduce Nick Won, Chartered Engineer and Certified Management Consultant, board member and secretary of ICMCI, and represents the board on the ICMCI Quality Assurance Committee. Nick will be covering new competency framework implementation by ICMCI. This is a very, very important sort of learning, because we all will be audited every 3 years, all right? So Nick, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Lydia, and hello, everybody. I'm going to attempt to share my screen if I can. I'm going to run very quickly through what has been happening with our assessment program of member IMCs. As you may have seen in one of Robert's slides, the Quality Assurance Committee, which has been responsible for the assessment of member IMCs, has been renamed now to Institute Quality Assurance, IQA, and is now a self-declared accreditation body within ICMCI. as an accreditation body, we must comply with the International Standard 17011. And that requires that IQA can show independence from its parent body, ICMCI, can act impartially, and is legally responsible for its accreditation activity. And it's disconnected from any consultancy or training activities. And so the structure is that our standards like competence framework, code of conduct are developed by our professional standards committee and approved by the board. And then the QAC, or now the Institute Quality Assurance, is the independent body which assesses IMCs or member IMCs against those standards. So we actually have three schemes under which IQA can accredit member institutes, one of which, of course, is our CMC scheme, but also we can accredit member institutes for ISO 17024, which is the certification of persons. And we will also be eventually perhaps accrediting other bodies within UNIDO, as Robert has mentioned in the project we have started with them. So the IQA structure now is that there are really two parts to IQA. One part is for the administration of the process, which is run by the ICMCI Secretariat under Rima's direction. And the Secretariat is responsible for managing the program, to initiate assessments by notifying the member institute of an upcoming assessment, to monitor the assessment process to make sure it follows the process in good time, and then closing off and the issuing of certificates. The other half of IQA, led by the IQA chair, is responsible for three things. One is developing and maintaining the independent policies of IQA. Second is to select, train and manage the assessors who go out and do the assessment of IMCs. And the third, perhaps most important job, is that they review and moderate the triennial assessment reports received by the assessors and inform the board via the Secretariat that the member institute has successfully passed the assessment and is recognized, accredited to run the CMC assessment program itself. And then this information is put together with from the membership committee, that the institute is a member in good standing, having paid its subscription dues, and then that is the qualification for the member institute to retain its full membership of ICMCI. So the accreditation of the CMC process is just part of that membership process. What happens in the triennial assessment process? Very simply, these are the blocks that a member IMC will go through. The Secretariat, first of all, informs the member institute 6 months in advance of when their CMC certification is due to expire. So the member institute actually has 6 months to prepare for the assessment taking place. Once the IMC has been notified by the Secretariat, there are 2 assessors appointed by IQA to carry out the assessment of the institute. And one of which is a lead assessor, who is a more experienced assessor, and the other is a co-assessor, who may also be experienced, but may not be. And the lead assessor will contact the IMC and arrange a call to go through the process with the IMC, explain all the steps that will happen, and explain all the documents that are involved in the assessment process. They will also arrange the timing, the dates of the assessment, and so on. Immediately after that, a pack of documents is sent to the IMC. Some of those documents are informative, they are information documents, and they will include things like the CMC manual, which is basically the rule book or the guidebook for the IMC. It contains all the requirements the IMC has to fulfill, and also a copy of the competence framework, and other documents in the pack will be for the institute to complete as part of the assessment. So there will be constant follow-up between the lead assessor and the institute and the Secretariat and the institute in order to answer any questions and to set up and confirm the rest of the plan for assessment. So the IMC then, in the following weeks and months, will complete the documents in the assessment pack, which they've been sent, which they need to do, and send back to the assessors for the assessors to do a document review. When the document review is complete, the assessors will have generated their list of questions that they will be asking when they do either their visit in person to the IMC or do their online assessment. And then the assessment interviews will take place. And we are now back in a situation where we are able to do face-to-face on-site triennial assessments with IMCs. And the process is that we do an on-site assessment every third triennial assessment. So 2 assessments online, but the third one must be a face-to-face on-site assessment. So the assessment is done. The assessors make their report with their recommendation to the members of IQA, the Institute Quality Assurance, and the members of IQA will vote to accept the recommendation of the assessors, or they may ask some questions of the assessors as part of the moderation process. But eventually, if the Institute is successful in its assessment, then the chair of IQA will inform the board that the IMC has successfully achieved its CMC accreditation as a body able to award the CMC to individuals. So that is the process through which the assessment takes place. Now, I'm sorry there are so many words on this slide, but it explains again in a bit more detail how an IMC should best prepare for their triennial assessment. I mean, firstly, they need to have put in place any rectifications or recommendations from the previous triennial assessment. The first thing the assessors will do is to see that those actions have been completed. Then the IMC should make sure that it is fully aware of the content of the CMC manual, and all of these documents, the CMC manual and the competence framework and the code of conduct, can all be found on the IMC website. They are all there to be seen under the member designation and CMC tabs. I'm going to talk a bit later specifically about the statement of equivalence, which is the key document used in the assessment process. I'll come back to that one. That is really the key document which the IMC has to complete and send back to the assessors. The IMC should make sure that they're fully up to date with the new competence framework, with the new matrix of preferred and acceptable techniques for assessment of CMC candidates, of the new code of conduct, and must make sure that their own code of conduct and their own CMC assessment process fits with the IMC standard in the CMC manual and those other documents, the competence framework and so on. Then the Institute needs to complete an Institute basic facts form, which just gives general information about the Institute, its name, how many members it has, and so on and so on. And the statement of equivalent, important document. And then having done that, the assessors make their document review and prepare for the actual assessment. There are some other documents which the IMC should also prepare in order to give the assessors all the information they need about the Institute. And all of these documents are included in the pack of documents which are sent many months in advance for the IMC to study and get prepared. Now, I need to say something about the new competence framework and code of conduct. The new competence framework actually contains 24 main competencies, and they are largely exactly the same as in the previous competence framework, but we have added more emphasis on some areas to bring the competence framework up to date with what is required of modern consultants. So you can see that we have introduced more detail about the requirement of IT skills for consultants for effective communication and administration of consultancy projects. The awareness of and able to apply latest technology for diagnostics in consultancy projects as well, and for devising solutions. More emphasis on interpersonal skills, maybe the use of emotional intelligence to improve the soft skills of consultancy projects, which have now been recognized as possibly the most important set of skills that a consultant should have. We've also increased areas of societal awareness and application of the UN Sustainable Development Goals within our competence framework. More things to do with holistic and transformational thinking, change management skills. And we have integrated and as far as the new code of conduct is concerned, we have a new format for the code, which is split into these 5 areas of responsibility of consultants to the client, responsibility to society, responsibility to the organization for which they are working, which may be their own company, or they may be a partner in a company, or they may be a consultant in a bigger consultancy, or they may be a consultant subcontracted into an organization like UNIDO or EBRD. Also responsibility to their colleagues, to their fellow consultants, and responsibility to the profession in terms of building the reputation of our management consultancy profession. So very specifically in terms of responsibility to the client, we've highlighted the use or compliance with ISO 20700 guideline as the ideal methodology for carrying out consultancy assignment. And also in terms of responsibility to society, applying themselves the principle of the Sustainable Development Goals, and also talking to the client organization about application of the SDGs as well. We've also included areas of awareness and following regulations about anti-bribery and so on within our code of conduct. So it is now a much stricter and broader scope within our code. And of course, we would be expecting the IMC in its triennial assessment to show that it is using the new competence framework in the assessment of its CMCs, and is also applying a code of conduct which is at least equivalent to that published by ICMCI. And that brings me on to the statement of equivalence, which is, as I said, the key document for a member IMC to complete in preparation for its assessment process. And we have always in ICMCI followed this principle of equivalence, because we recognize that around the world there are different cultures, there is a lot of diversity in the way consultancy is approached around the world, and we accept that within certain defined limits in terms of our code of conduct. And our principle of equivalence allows for that flexibility of an IMC to apply things like the competence framework, the code of conduct, and so on, and have their own versions which are equivalent to what ICMCI publishes. And so the statement of equivalence is the document through which the IMC shows the assessors during the triennial assessment how they meet the requirements of ICMCI in terms of the competence framework that's used, in terms of the assessment process, in terms of the code of conduct that they apply as their equivalent. Of course, an IMC can use the IMC competence framework and code of conduct exactly as they are, but there is a freedom for them to have their own as long as they can demonstrate sufficient equivalence with the ICMCI published version. So what does the statement of equivalence look like? Well, I've just given you here a sample page, and you can see this particular item on the statement of equivalence, which is actually in total about 15 pages long. This is the part about the assessment process for CMC that talks about the application form to be submitted by the applicant and the documentary evidence that an aspiring CMC should provide for their CMC assessment. That's in the left-hand column. The middle column is where the institute can show within its system how their process operates to show the equivalence to the ICMCI standard for that process of CMC. And then in the right-hand column, the institute can cross-reference or add in there the relevant evidence documents which they can provide for the assessors to see that the process is being followed properly. And that could be hyperlinks to a website which the IMC has, or hyperlinks to a directory of documents which possibly the assessors could get to online to do their document review, or it may be that the IMC adds the list of documents in that right-hand column, and they actually send the documents to the assessors to see. Whatever method is acceptable, online would be preferable for the assessors if that's possible, but basically the documents to be submitted by the institute are those which are listed there on the right-hand side. So I've gone very quickly through the process and through the changes which in the competence framework and code of conduct which IMCs need to be aware of. I have committed on behalf of IQA to also have a preparatory session with any IMC who wants to know more about the process in more detail and how it works and ask questions. So any IMC that wants to, please get in touch with me and we can arrange a session to give you full guidance before you start even preparing for your assessment. So thank you very much for listening. Lydia, I'm sure there won't be time for questions again, but as I've said, I'm ready online to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you so much, Nick, for your excellent presentation. As usual, very detailed, very thorough, very professional, very objective, and first class. Okay, Nick, thank you. Now,
Thank you.
We are not so bad. We have now catch up with the time. So maybe we can have 5 minutes to answer any question. We can open to the floor. Sorry, the other sessions, we were a bit of a rush. Yes, any question, please? You can open your mic if you like, if you prefer sort of to speak rather than to type, you know, on the chat. And I like your offer, Nick, about any IMC can now reach out to you, all right, to be enlightened and to be educated more on this topic, which is very important, all right? All right, any questions, please?
Yeah, Lydia, I'm seeing a question from Jerry.
Yes, please, Gary.
The 2014 versions have already been updated, and the ones you see on the website are the latest ones. I would expect that there will be the next major review sometime within the next 4 to 5 years. That's the normal review period that we take for these. But what you see on the website are the latest versions.
Thank you so much, Nick. Any other question? Maybe we have one last question in the interest of time, because we try to keep to time. Any other question, anybody? Thank you, Jerry, for your questions. Any other question? If no, let's move on. All right. Wait, sorry. Oh, all right. Our executive director, Rima, is saying they are the 2021 version. All right. But anyway, it's okay. ICMCI under Nick will always be updating all the time. Knowing Nick is very much up to standard and up to date and very relevant and very current. All right. All right. Well done. Yeah, well done from Jerry and from all of us, Nick. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the next item. All right. My pleasure to introduce Amamin Purodosh, Manager at Development Solutions NGO, SME Governance Coordinator at USAID Mongolia, funded BEST program, also manager at OT-funded local agribusiness supporting program. Second but not least, also very important person, we have Atan Toya, Atan who is the founder and director of Business Excellence LLC and CMC and chair of MMIC, who will now share about the synopsis of Genghis Khan's management system thinking, past, present, and future. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Lydia. Thank you. And let me share my screen. And right, I hope can everyone hear me and see the screen, yeah?
Yes, yes, we can.
Right, thanks. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to have been given this opportunity to make a presentation to you on behalf of the IMC Mongolia, and special thanks to Mr. Ammerman and Mr. Engbat, whose many years of research and study are about to be delivered. We may be relative novices in the world of management consulting, having only transited from a command to a market economy 33 years ago, but we believe that management methods have begun long before this with Genghis Khan. We believe his wisdom and exceptional management skills are highly relevant to management consultants for now and future. So let us look at what we gained from our exercise and studying this exceptional man to see if there is anything we can learn from his life and how he rose to power. Genghis Khan is largely known to the world as the founder of the largest empire in Eurasia. But who was this man? Was he a brutal tyrant like many of the rulers of that time? Or did he actually lead humanity through the dark corridors of the Middle Ages? Was he a genius who sowed the intellectual seeds of progress in a new era of economic development? Or was he actually the man of the millennium as chosen by the Washington Post in 1996? Many studies have been carried about, and if you Google his name, you will find 13.5 million results. Ironically, if you spell his name differently, there will be even more. Personally speaking, I think the conclusion made more recently by researchers is beginning to form a clearer picture of the phenomena that this man truly was. Within the time allowed for this event, we wish to touch Great Khan's system thinking and people management skills, which we believe rooted from his spiritual ideology and leadership. How did he, in the space of 10 years, lead a small tribe that was on the verge of extinction, unite them with all other Mongolian tribes that had been sworn enemies into a fighting force like so, which had never been seen before, and go on to conquer 40 countries of the world in the following 7 years? In 2019, a publication, The Mongol Khan's Business Model, contains a passage that refers to global companies adopting a system thinking approach identical to that of Genghis Khan's. You can see on this slide the global economic cycle 800 years ago. The tallest stack indicates the cost of preparing for the next war, and the second tallest stack is the post-war rebuilding. The value chain begins with the stage of recovering from war and ends with the second major stage of preparation for the next war. The only way to reduce the cost of war is not to wage war on your own soil, but to invade the territory of other countries and plunder their resources. This never-ending vicious circle without any way out led to no possibility for economic development. It was effectively a period of stagnant human development and a dilemma facing every country, and no one had satisfactorily solved it. This was when Genghis Khan began to apply his logic and create a model that would reverse this cycle. He altered the dynamics of the system by introducing a new economic system as shown by the red line in the graph on the slide. The rebuilding costs and the preparation for war costs, both of which were significantly reduced. Workers, artisans, and those who previously manufactured war items day and night began to return to normal lifestyle. Taxes were reduced and productivity became high. Mongolians' free trade policies allowed barter among producers. So every one of those countries who joined the system was peaceful and happy. One could even say a forerunner to the WTO. A new economic and political order called Pax Mongolica was established, leading to a period of peace that lasted for several centuries. Norms of collective responsibility and collective security of nations were initiated. From a systems perspective, merging into one enormous political and economic system, coexisting peacefully and moving to creative economic relations. Global modeling and global management ideologies were all realized. The Khan and his managers built a unified Eurasian state with their systematic thinking. the legacy of the solutions to improve livelihoods and economic prosperity through larger system integration of order, human rights, and free trade remains firmly entrenched in the governance of the world's greatest powers. The Kangs did not conquer all the countries by force, but rather united them by diplomatic means. The fundamental principles of democracy were initiated, and the elements of social welfare, the redistribution of wealth, logistical systems, etc., were left for their successors to utilize and develop further. The norms of the rule of law and justice were set globally. What is the value in the system thinking of Genghis Khan? This is something that makes us to think. And the Mongol kings were experts in system engineering and were credited for creating the modern world ideology. There is a lot that managers and leaders working in multinational corporations, global market development, and business can learn from this rich heritage of knowledge hidden in historical sources. You can see Stanchey's smile curve here, and if you look at today's global value chain, you can see that parabola is very similar in character to that of the 13th century. We are in a state of inefficient hyper competition in tech wars, trade wars, and brand wars. This is also kind of abnormal development of the global economic system. It shows how distorted our norms of creative collaboration have become. Although scientific and technological advances push productivity up and reduce costs, the profits are minimal, just as we saw in the 13th century. We especially underutilize the power of spiritual leadership, which Genghis Khan demonstrates in his leadership. Without ideological support, it is impossible to create and manage a large global system. Spiritual intelligence is the path to ideological leadership. We management consultants face challenges when we try to assist the clients to find their core. Why do they business? What they do? What is the cause or passion or purpose for doing business? Possibly many of us have not answered these questions for our own practices. The struggle is related to the lack of awareness for spiritual intelligence and competence for forecasting in longer term. It is believed that one of the factors for a spiritual intellect is due to Mongolians' nomadic way of life. We think that there is still an environment for raising spiritual intelligence and ideological awareness, both of which are very much needed nowadays. And from here, my partner, Mr. Amarmand, will continue the presentation. Over to you, Amra.
миний яриа сонсогдож байна уу?
Yes, we can hear you.
За орчуулагчд маань гайгүй сонсогдож байгаа бол монголоор ингэ яваад эхэлчихэ. 15 минут гэж ойлгосон шүү дээ.
Yeah, now you will be here.
So I will be now doing the translation of the presentation. So from the management consultancy perspective, we have prepared this presentation. And what I thought is I tried to compile materials that will not be easily accessible or Googled out on the internet, but I just wanted to highlight a new angle to the portrait of our great leader, Genghis Khan. So I found
yes. 13 дээр явж байна.
So in this written, it is written here that for every business runner, they're starting from zero. And here in Mongolia, we have a proverb which sounds like no friend, then a shadow, and no horsewhip, then a tail. That is just the proverb that is saying that one is starting from the scratch. You don't have any weapon, you don't have any resources, and you don't have any friends or comrades. And every business starts from that point. And for Genghis Khan, it's the same. And when this child, he was a single head of the household. His father passed away when he was just 10 years of age, and he had 4 younger siblings, 3 brothers and 1 younger sister. And for this child, he needed to survive, and he needed to fight to survive. And he was hunting, and he was bringing food to the table for his household. And at that time, his skills as a leader emerged from those early days. So he was a person who never could tolerate any injustice, and he was quite direct in explaining his opinion. And when he was trying to survive, and every time he followed the same principles, he never deviated from these principles. And he also was very frank with his mother, and he would tell all these cases of injustices when his brothers and siblings would display. So we could see that from his age, as tender as young as only 10, he was the person who is a child, already a young adult at that time, who would not tolerate injustices, and he would just give this punishment when he saw this kind of injustices. When we say that Genghis Khan, when people say that Genghis Khan was a tyrant, we can't really follow this opinion because there are lots of other qualities we can find in Genghis Khan. How does a teenage boy who is the only child of an affluent family and who commits to serving Temujin wholeheartedly, engaging in dangerous tasks that could lead to the loss of his life and without any form of financial compensation? And this was the portrait of Genghis Khan that you could find in our newly established Genghis Khan Museum in Ulaanbaatar. And when we are seeing that his secret history of the Mongolians demonstrated this, how Borchi, who was the only child of this rich family, first met Temujin, and they befriended when they were 15 years old. Where there was a monument erected in Khinty province of Mongolia, not far from Ulaanbaatar, to both Temujin and Borchi. This monument is showing how these two befriended, and they started winning back all the livestock and the other treasures that have been taken away by enemies. When they arrived at the rich Naki, Temujin turned to Borchi and said, my friend, I could never have taken my horses back without you. So how many of them would you like to take? This may not seem exceptional nowadays, but at that time it was really significant. Taking in other person's possessions, either material or human, was almost an accepted practice at that time. So a leader and manager must be capable of acknowledging and rewarding his people when they do something extraordinary. And Temujin has already recognized that need when he was just 15 at that time. So also Borchi, his friend, there were 2 times when Borchi was preserved. I mean, the Genghis Khan stood as a cover for Borchi, protecting Borchi's life and taking the risks on his own chest. So he had been prepared for death, and he had this, power and bravery to face risks. So the Genghis Khan was not only a great leader, but he also had a really good organizer. He could really place very strategically all his troops before any war began, any battle began. And he also loved his troops really very much, and he would understand their needs. And every time he would follow the very clear criteria when he promoted his soldiers. So he was also, for example, taking into account the quality of that candidate before promotion. If he was gentle enough, if he was understanding enough of the other people's needs, and he would never promote some leaders or warriors who have never seen hardship and who would never feel for another. So conquering the body is easy, but it is not easy to conquer the mind. That was the saying of Genghis Khan. And if you wish to subdue before or after me having seized the body, hold the soul. And if you hold the soul, there will be lots of horizon opening up before you. So that was this is the next principle that Genghis Khan taught us. It is easy to buy 8 hours of time input from employees, but it is difficult to conquer their minds, their souls. So what we would like to say that we need to treat our employees like Genghis Khan did his soldiers. Every leader must be ready to fight for each of their employees and feel for them. Another admiring principle and quality of Genghis is that he was a great organizer. He possessed extraordinary organizational skills that he could manage these numerous troops of his very systematically. So he split all these soldiers in tens, in hundreds, in 1,000s, and in 10,000s. So he has given the management role to the head of the 10, to head of the 100, and so on. So he would only talk to those heads. Also, how did Genghis Khan gain these many skills? We could learn from the Mongolians' lifestyle. And of course, we could just imagine just an uneducated herder who was Genghis Khan in a true face. So how was he able to conquer all these plans and to become such a great leader, and how he learned all these skills from his upbringing. That is I will try to do now in my now skills from now next slides. So Mongolians are nomads, as you know, and the nomads are moving as minimum as 4 times in a year, just changing their pasture lands and looking for new better grasslands for their livestock. And they would always try to find and settle in a location where there was sufficient resources for their livestock as well as for them. So they would try to find the best place. Also, they would also very carefully consider all the risks. Where are the wolves? Where are the other, risks such as natural hazards and so on. So they would do quite a thorough research. In other words, situational analysis. That's what he was doing. He was doing the due diligence at that time. And it was really important for every herder to do this kind of due diligence. If a herder will move without doing any this kind of due diligence, they would be really struck by various hazards. The wolves will attack their livestock, their herds, and there will be lots of damages to this household. Therefore, every herder naturally knew that it is important to do this study thoroughly. And if you look more deeper into those skills, then we could also say that even if now you will visit the countryside, you will see many young kids who are riding on the back of their horses, and they are doing this observation around the landscape, and they look at where the mountains are, where the grasslands are, where is the water point, from where the wind blows, and where the predators might be, etc. So just by a glance, a simple glance around this surrounding and landscape, this herder child can already make lots of conclusions and do this due diligence and make conclusions from that. So that is really important how our herders have been learning those skills. So obtaining management skills is not really about reading management books, but it's about getting out of the box, start thinking outside the box, and trying to find innovative ways of how to preserve our land, how to preserve our livestock, how to keep them safe from the predators, or this survival skills really taught those management skills. I would like to invite you all to come and visit Mongolia, and especially witness the Nadam, the biggest summer festival that we have in Mongolia. So during this Nadam festival, you can witness 3 manly games. We call them like games that men play. This is wrestling, horse riding, and archery. So these 3 manly games are the games that have been cultivated and developed throughout the centuries. And it was on one hand to develop those skills in men, so that these men will be from young age will turn into masculine and strong men with great stamina who can withstand hardships, different weathers, and also to be able to win over various battles and wars. So Genghis Khan was erecting the monuments, but he was really dedicating those monuments for the honor of his soldiers, not for himself or for other noble men. And in St. Petersburg, you could see in the museum, the Hermitage Museum of St. Petersburg, those monuments. And despite all his achievements, Genghis Khan remained to be a humble person who never commissioned any monuments for himself, but he erected instead monuments for the honor of his soldiers. And he always wanted to reward his the distinguished soldiers, and he would always make sure that for their bravery and for their efforts, the soldiers are rewarded and compensated for. So there are lots of the skills that have been brought by the very livelihood of Mongolians, the lifestyle of the Mongolians, nomad herders, that we just wanted to link with the nowadays management practices. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was interesting for you.
Human being has unlimited resources such as intellect and mind. A lack of material resources which are limited are not necessarily a problem if you utilize your mind and intellect, because with this you can attain any goals. On May 15, 1219, Genghis Khan wrote a letter to Chanchumbom, an eminent Taoist monk, where he explained his management philosophy. Extracts from this letter are shown in this slide. Heaven has abandoned China with its haughtiness and extravagant luxury, but I, living in the northern wilderness, have no inordinate passions. I hate luxury and exercise moderation. I have only one coat and one meal. I eat the same food and am dressed in the same tatters as my humble herdsmen. I consider the people as my children and take an interest in talented men as if they were my brothers. We always agree on our principles and we are always united by mutual affection. In military exercises, I'm always in front, and in times of battle, I'm never behind. In the space of 7 years, I have succeeded in accomplishing great work in uniting the whole world in one empire. I have not myself distinguished qualities, but the government of the king is inconstant, and therefore heaven assists me to obtain the throne. The sun to the south, the Hua to the north, the Hia to the east, and the barbarians in the west, all together have acknowledged my supremacy. It seems to me that since the remote time of our ancestors, such a vast empire has not been seen. But as my calling is high, the obligations incumbent on me are also heavy, and I fear that in my ruling there may be something wanting. To cross a river, we make boats and rudders. Likewise, we invite the sage men and choose our assistants for keeping the empire in good order. Since the time I came to the throne, I have always taken to heart the ruling of my people, but I could not find worthy men to occupy the places of the 3 Kang and 9 King. With respect to these circumstances, I inquired and heard that you, Master, have penetrated the truth, that you walk in the path of truth. Deeply learned and much experienced, you have much explored the universal laws. The sanctities become manifest. You have considered the rigorous rules of the ancient sages. Genghis Khan knew exactly how to use the concept of shared vision. He mobilized every citizen in Mongolia, regardless of age and sex, into contributing towards his goal of uniting everyone around the globe and bringing peace and prosperity to all. He knew who he was, why he must do what he did, how to do that, and made everyone who with him knew this. During our research, we found many books written by great researchers, scholars, historians, and management people. Here you can see some of them. Jack Weatherford's book, Making the Modern World, was Amazon's the bestseller in 2019. Harold Lam's book, Genghis Khan, describes Temujin and Borchi friendship and more. The book the business model of Mongolian Khans, written by young Mongolian consultants, is highly relevant to today's business world, describing how to engineer economies and businesses by using similar to Genghis Khan's model. Genghis Khan's vision was to bring peace to the world by uniting the whole world under one empire. He believed that peace can be achieved only in this way, by uniting under one leader who is destined by an eternal blue sky. The compassion and love he had for Mongolian people and all people of the world was a foundation for his mission, core values, and vision. Treating people from different nationalities, cultures, and religions equally and prospering was the motivation for his creation. The engineering of building the largest empire in the second millennium was one of the many innovations he left behind for us to appreciate. We see that Great Khan found his friend and tail during his mission. His friend was spiritual intelligence and tail was compassion to let people live peacefully and happy. We Mongolians were prohibited to say Great Khan's name for 70 years during Russian rule. Those who disclosed the truth of this history were punished, jailed, and prosecuted. Our history therefore became staged and fabricated illusion written because of political agenda. Fortunately, we have had a renaissance of Genghis Khan in Mongolia that has restored our national pride. We can learn and apply the Great Khan's wisdom and compassion as the man who created and shaped the universe and comprehended the essence of the existence. After listening to this presentation we have just made on the research into Genghis Khan, we hope that his management and leadership principles that we have described can be applied to management consultants that effectively improve some of the apparent problems that is prevalent in the world today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amin, as well as Tantoya. Wow, what an amazing, fascinating insight into the Genghis Khan history, empire, I would say ambitions, victory, triumph, wisdom, compassion, and empathetic leadership. It was really super, I would say, fascinating. All right, now we're open to the floor. Any questions, please, from the floor? Anyone would like to ask any question? Daniel Chan. Oh, thank you for the detailed account. Never learn it from history study. So true. Well said, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah. See else what we have. Nick to everyone. Oh, LinkedIn. All right. Can you all take note of this? Nick is giving the LinkedIn. Okay. Any other questions for Amamin and Atantoya? You see, Nick say he enjoy, you know. Most of us do enjoy very thoroughly, really. All right.
There was one question who wrote before.
I have a question. Yeah, Shinlet. What's your question, Shinlet? Would you like to speak up? Would you like, you younger, would you like to read out the question if you don't mind? Because you can see better.
Yes,
younger.
Sure.
Yes.
Napoleon said, "I'm not as good as Genghis Khan. His 4 tiger sons are dying to work for his father. I have no such good luck." The different sides in the family, the support of the family to the career, not the military. Any comments on the father-son's working team and learning point for consultants? From Mr.
Thank you, Shinlia. Yeah, there is so much to learn from his wisdom.
Cesara from Italy has said,
Oh, wow.
okay, if that's not, we are actually almost time now, right? And we will take a 10 minutes break. And schools, you know that you have actually very short, huh? How is that? 10 minutes, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
20 minutes, right? Yeah. So if you can do in 15 minutes, that will be wonderful. Then we have 5 minutes for question. I'm sure there are a lot of questions because most countries, most IMCS, basically preparing to submit this for this award. All right. And this, I hope, will be encouragement to everyone. So I hope you all had a good short break to have a cup of tea. And I'm sure most of you are very curious and looking forward to hear Tools Davar, MMCI Executive Director, to share about best practices of winning the Gold Constantinus International Award. By the way, Mongolia won this award in 2021. All right. So all of you must try and do your submission for 2023. There you are. Tools, please proceed.
Okay, so thank you, Lydia. Thank you very much. And let me, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from IMC Mongolia, so Mongolian Management Consultants Institute. So it's a great privilege for me to share our experience at the ICMCI's Asia Pacific Hub meeting for 2023. I would like to introduce our best practices in providing professional management consultants to organizations, and that won a gold medal in Constantinus International Award in 2021, as Lydia announced right now. Okay. So let me just introduce about our project. So the winner in this management consulting project is creating strategic planning capability at best at SIGN International. So the word SIGN in Mongolian language means best. So we tried our best professional management consultings at the best international company in Mongolia. Let me give you a brief introduction about the winners of our organizations. So at the left of the slide, you can see MMCI, so our Institute of Management Consultants in Mongolia, is an NGO established in 2011 at the initiative of local management consultants. It became a full member of ICMCI in 2020. So our organization has over 50 members and over 100 followers. So for these consultancy services, we had created a collaborative consulting model. So this model, this program enables consultants from different primary functional areas to collaborate in delivering clients' project. So SIGN International applied for this program so that they could implement the recommendations provided by the previous project, which was executed by another consultancy company called Business Excellence. So for the this collaborative consultants model was created by MMCI so that this model can be reached out to most SMEs by offering professional consultancy of the three parties. So IMC Mongolia, the client, and the consultants. The client objectives was to create and implement their strategy for growth and improve their performance of functional areas. Okay. The consultant's objective was to collaborate, share knowledge and experience, and ultimately to achieve the highest possible client satisfactions. So a collaborative consultant structure in our organizations consisted of this organizational structure, and the leader was Mr. Chimit, who was a chair of MMCI at the time. So leader was Chimit, who was a creative brain for these consultants, and then Mr. Batgirl was a team leader for this consultancy. And then Mrs. Altantoya was a project facilitator, and then she was actually contributed a lot because she has started this business at the beginning. Yeah, so, and then other consultants were operating in this field as strategy, human resource, finance, processes, business model, and sales and marketing. So a brief intro about the client organization. So SCI International has been established in 1996, and then yes, and then it was established by 3 brothers, and the business area was retailer and authorized seller of mobile phones, computers, and electronic wires. So in 2015, the company has been taken by new owners, Gaucher and Amuluntoya, and then this company in these owners starts seeking for the consultancy services to become number 1 company in this sector. In this sector, I mean, in this market, and then they have applied for this program. And then we provided this consultancy services at the MMCI. So the project opening ceremony involving all employees was a great event to announce the project goal and then intended outcomes. So it immediately boosted the morale at the company. This the new owners, Gaucher and his wife, Ambulantoya, were actually very ambitious owners, and then they tried to do unthinkable and impossible to turn the company around. So the project overview gives you just, you know, that here I highlighted the main items, what the SCI actually needed. So the SCI International needed to improve its overall performance by focusing its efforts on growth with an eye for international expansions. So the challenge was to transform the company from a day-to-day action-based management company to a strategically managed company with long-term objectives. It was essential to create a management style through the organization to create a forward-looking company that could successfully capitalize on market opportunities and outpace the competition. So the owners of the company realized that they had to strengthen their market position only by involving management consultants that would help them to achieve their ambitions. The owners wanted to shift from the very difficult market with the very poorly developed financial systems, and the very weak regulatory framework, and then the highly competitive environment. So SCI chose to strive to do impossible things. So in the country, at that time, there was majority of population which only operated in cash, and then ability of customers to the electronics and appliances at the time of purchase was not possible without any third parties. So the vision of science elevated the people's living standards by offering quality products at the affordable prices and reasonable financing charges without involving third parties, and then by making a leasing structure to be able to help the customers to have affordable compliances. So for the successful implementing of this project, we actually needed to have a very good action plan and communication plan, and then so that the management systems so that we can improve the management systems and then improve the business design. So for the management systems improved, so it was able to create a new markets and new businesses and then new opportunities, and then business designs helped with the organizational structures and managerial leadership and so on. So as a project results, the sales was tripled by the year 2020, and then the number of employees has been doubled, and then profitability of the company has been increased, and then annual turnover also has been increased, and then managerial leadership has been trustworthy, and then employee satisfaction has been improved, and then number of employer population has been increased by, I think, 4 times after the project implementations. So what values created during this project? So values created for the client was that the client now understands business problems and management issues in the integrated way to enable flexibility to meet the customers' evolving needs. And then our customers was, the client was able to prioritize strategic initiatives, and they required investments in the most effective way, thanks to the project. So implemented the change quickly at every level, from micro and cross-functional processes to the level of organizational and structural nature. So the creation of innovative culture also played a very significant role in this project, and then the value has been increased by creation of innovative culture and newfound confidence to respond quickly to changing market conditions. So the owner's leadership became more visionary and strategic. Their confidence in achieving the company's strategy grew significantly. So the business development and operations environment have become more efficient. So, and then for the consultants, you can see the second circle. So for the consultants, the value was the consultants were able to experience in the consultant processes covering every functional area provided. So with the significant synergies and cross-collaboration opportunities. So the improved understanding of the interrelations of the symptoms enabled a more comprehensive approach to tackling the root cause issues faced with the client. Consultants from different functional areas enabled the sharing of knowledge, information, and experience in developing new tools and methodologies, and boosting the confidence for functional experts to achieve better results with less labor and effort that would be required in performing by individually. So at the end of the day, all stakeholders were satisfied with the results and client ambitions, which previously initially seemed impossible to be materialized. So at the end of the day, so at the Constantinus International Award 2021, we submitted our applications, and then we won the gold medal, MMCI and Sign International. So what kind of lessons we learned? So, and then as I told, explained before, so for the MMCI, it was, that we created this collaborative consulting model as and we call it 5X models. So, and then this model is suitable for SME businesses with the 5 times less cost, 5 times less time, and then 5 times more values, and then 5 times more efficiency, and 5 times more efforts from every consultants involved. So, and then we created professional management services to company. We were able to provide in the collaborative manner. And for consultants, it was, the learning was very essential. And the consultants learned to have significant synergies and cross-collaboration opportunities among the consultants. And for the client, as I explained before, that there were tangible results which improved sales, increased employees, increased the number of branches, and increased the number of business opportunities. And then also there was intangible results, which was, better strategic operations and better improvement, corporate improvement. So, so at the end of the day, so this project has been satisfactory with for the every stakeholders. So, and then as during the international jury committee, I understand that they were, judging this project not only, for the implementing our professional services, but it was, valuing that overall performance of our client, Sang International, because Sang International was, that very motivated company. And then I am not sure if this 5X model would be, that efficient as much as we implemented in Sang International, as if we will implement it in any other organizations, because the Sang International has been very motivated, and the owners were very future-oriented company. So they were, they're looking for exploiting market opportunities successfully, and then they wanted to have overcome their competitions. So currently now at this point, at this day, at present time, Sang has established themselves as a go-to store for electronic devices that can be acquired on leasing basis by everyone in Mongolia. So that the meaning to increasing the opportunity to enhance the living standards. So this creation of the new business model within a traditional company, and highlighted the things that can be achieved through professional management consultants. So the perception of in Mongolia that that only large companies can afford professional management consultants, well, now it's not valid anymore, because this model has been implemented in very small companies, and now this company grew, become a very good successful company, and then now this company is becoming almost #1 in this market, and having I think it was now having 20 stores around the world or even more. And then this company now provides like more than 20 electronic devices brands, and then over 400 different type of devices to the market. I think you know that I was too fast for the explaining this one, and then I'm able to I would be happy to answer the questions now.
Thank you very much, Cruz, for sharing the Mongolian formula of your success and sharing all the critical success factors for the best practice. So we can see here, to sum up, it's very important when you are submitting the award to highlight the values, the measurable and positive outcomes, both tangible and intangible, for both the client and the consultants, and what are the lessons learned. Thank you. There's a question here by PK Singapore. He asked, was this winning scene project entirely managed by local Mongolian consultants?
Yes. As I introduced in one of slides, so this our consultants participated in this program. All local consultants, yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, we will move on to the next item. Right? Any question? Any burning questions? Well, I take it as no, because I don't see any at all at the moment. All right, so I move on to the next session. The next session will be, thank you, Tools. The next session will be myself. I'm the immediate past president of IMC Singapore and the Asia Pacific Hub Chair currently. Right. Kuzaiman, could you help in sharing the 3 pillars? Well, while she's doing all the necessary, as all of you know, ICMCI is the voice of management consulting. It is an organization that brings all the experts together in one place, a place to connect with one another, as well as shaping the future of consulting. So as part of a self-regulating body, ICMCI has come up with 3 strategy pillars, which actually was mentioned by our chair, Robert, but now you can see the 3 pillars clearer. All right, the 3 pillars, if you don't mind. Let's have a look at the 3 pillars. Thank you, Kuzaiman. So these are the 3 pillars. First of all, the ethics and standards, establishing the ethical standards. ICMCI leads the way, and you can see in detail what is it constitute. Then the next one would be knowledge development and sharing, which is actually like a think tank of collective wisdom and a global hub of knowledge development and shared knowledge. Last but not least is the representation, the marketing, the communication. As our chair Robert say, we must think of the broader business ecosystem beyond competitors, maybe associations and all that. Could all of you please take a picture of these 3 pillars? What will happen next is some admin details. I would like to move to the next admin details first, all right? Now, selected participants in the Asia Pacific IMC will go into the breakout rooms. Not all members will break in, only selected. actually, we expected a much bigger crowd who have registered. So if you happen to be in a breakout room with smaller number, don't worry about it. You just do what you can. Those participants not in Asia Pac IMCs and some other members in Asia Pac will remain in the main room. And Rima and hopefully our chair will be there to answer some of your questions. All right. Please also, when you go into the breakout room in each group, you have selected groups, by the way, you will discover when you enter the breakout room, you have to appoint a spokesperson because after 30 minutes, we will come back to the main room and you are expected to share whatever you have discussed in brief is fine because due to the constraint of time. So we will be breaking you out soon, but before we do so, please take a picture of the strategy pillars for IMCs in the Asia Pac. Please take a picture now. Okay, from your camera. Right? Okay. Kuzaima, can we move on to the next slide, please? Take a picture quickly. Okay. The next, you ask in the breakout rooms, you are supposed to discuss 3 questions. Share challenges and opportunities of your IMC in Asia Pacific. Only your IMC, not in general, okay? So you have to have a spokesman for each IMC if possible, just brief. We don't expect a lot, we don't have a time. And in what ways your IMC will align with the strategies of ICMCI. As you know, our chair, Robert, has given us a wealth of initiative in the pipeline that are to coming. So you can see from what his initiatives are, maybe you can think about it, and then you can talk about it, and then you are expected by 31st of August 2023 to submit your IMC plans to our Executive Director of ICMCI, Executive Rima Nasser. All right. Now, why we want you to submit by this time is because this is to enable her to consolidate for our annual meeting in October in Amman, Jordan. Hope to see you there. So we are now going into breakout rooms. Try to spend 10 minutes for each question. All right, please take a picture of these two in case you forget about the questions. Please take a picture. All the IMC in Asia Pac, you will be going into your breakout rooms. So you younger, now we can put everyone into the breakout rooms. Please take a picture. You will bring up to the breakout. Thank you, younger. Please keep on join. If you're supposed to be in, you will be able to see yourself there, but not the IMCs in Europe or in other North America or South America. Okay, thank you. I hope all of you have a fruitful and rewarding discussion. Now, I'm sure all of you have appointed your spokesperson. Let's hear from you because we have quite a few countries to share and also quite a few countries are absent. Let's start with Singapore first. All right. Singapore, would you like to share Singapore? Dr. Adrian, please share Singapore.
Yeah, for Singapore, I would say that in order not to be long-winded, I think you can put in terms of all the C's. See, I think in terms of Singapore, with reference to 3 questions posed for the chat rooms, I would say all the C's. dealing with collaboration, competition, connections, communications, and conformance with standards and ethics. See, so I think in Singapore, our key role moving forward, okay, and aspiration actually is conformance with these basic C's. Maybe I put it too short. Perhaps my Singapore, colleagues can actually elaborate.
I mentioned the opportunities arising from the hub structure and also the observer status initiative. That will be excellent given our active role from Singapore participating and leading the Asia Hub chairmanship from Gary Ng, Shinriet, Charles, and then now Lydia. So all this can also rope in not only IMC members, but also the observer status people, because there are 7,000 MNCs and social civil organizations in Singapore, plus the many family officers and so on, and international bodies. All of them are here. So they could be a potential target.
Thank you, Shinriet. Thank you, Dr. Chew. Perhaps now we can move on to the next sharing, unless Singapore has more to add, because I think we did discuss quite a lot of substance. Dr. Adrian, would you like to share a bit more? Just a bit more before we move on.
Yeah, I think that a bit, I agree with you that we've gone to quite a bit of discussion in the short time available. And I think our emphasis from the Singapore side is emphasis on tangible and sustainable action. See, I think we are very action-oriented, and we want to be not only have it done within the Asia Hub, but also in conjunction with other hubs. Okay, and also quite importantly, okay, with the hand in hand with ICMCI. See, so we would think that our focus, at least for the immediate future, is action-oriented programs in conjunction with the hubs in the ICMCI.
Thank you, Dr. Adrian Chew. All right, next we move on, because we would like to give every hub, every IMC an opportunity, although not all are here, unfortunately. But never mind, can we move on to Peter, Australia? Peter?
Thank you, Lydia. Okay, so to answer these questions in the same order, so challenges and opportunities for us. The primary challenge for us is to raise the profile of the IMC in Australia, and we are working on that presently. We have provided a submission to government and on the provision of consulting services. ICMCI through Robert Bodenstein have helped us on that, and we hope that out of that review will come something for improving the profile of our organisation. The second critical issue for us is raising our membership, and we think that that will probably go hand in hand, that in raising the profile of the organisation and bringing us to the significant attention of the Australian government and its committees, we think that membership will follow. But we also have a couple of specific programs, and those specific programs include a member get member program and a development of our professional development program. In some ways, I've also tackled 2 and 3, but in terms of how we can align with the strategies of the ICMCI, one of the key things that we are working on is taking Robert's model from ISO 2700 through to CMC, is developing those intermediate programs which will accredit people at different stages of their consulting career. And so we are working on a competency-based professional development program, and particularly using the CMC competency framework as the basis for doing that. So that's our prime attention. So by the 31st of August, I think that those three elements of our new strategy to increase our membership, raise our profile, and development of our professional development will be ensconced in the program, and not only that, but also making some progress towards achieving the targets for at least the current financial year.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you. Appreciate that. The next country, we will call on Daniel. Daniel, are you the spokesperson for Hong Kong?
Yeah. So I think we can speak on behalf of IMC Hong Kong. I think one of our challenges actually is on the training and development. Before the COVID, for example, we can cooperate with the local university and some training organization to run some training course for potential candidate, either to apply for the CMC or the ISO 2700. But during the COVID-19, we could only run virtual courses, okay? And most of the university actually is quite reluctant to cooperate with us because of their cost issue, because I think it was not cost effective for them to run courses for us, okay, in terms of the management consulting. So I think we are facing the challenges of how to train up potential candidate so that they can apply for the CMC or the ISO 2700. In our group, I just talked to Otto about whether there could be any opportunity for. I see that Drain have some learning management system LMS providing a virtual training to the ISO 2700. I also looked at that is already practiced in Canada and IMC USA. I'm just wondering, can we in Hong Kong leverage this LMS training course to our potential candidates so that they can be trained on the ISO 2700, so that we will not reinvent the wheel to provide to construct the course content, etc. So this is one of our issue in Hong Kong right now.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. Is Otto Acuna still in here or not yet? Maybe it will be good.
Yeah.
Otto, could you have your views, please, Otto?
Okay.
By the way, Otto is from Global Institute, all right? And he is now based in Puerto Rico, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, in our case, we cover all the countries of the world where there isn't an institute. So our membership base is very scattered in the 5 continents. So by design, we do everything. We think on everything virtually, and we there's no other way to do it. So everything we do is usually asynchronous. And we are still a small institute. We are 50 members. So what I also I was sharing with the group, very interesting group that I had, was that because we don't have the muscle, what we are trying to do in order to reach out all those parts where we don't have physical presence and we don't have the muscle to cover all the area, is that we are creating agreements, MOUs, with training organizations that are in the business of training people. And we are being, regarding the strategy, we are being opportunistic with that. So we have an instrument that can be applied to markets that have the right conditions and opportunities in order to partner with these training organizations so that they have the muscle and we provide the alignment with the CMC, the IMC framework, with the ISO so that in their training, they foster and they promote the standards that we uphold. And we just signed with circumstantially with two of these organizations in the UAE and Saudi, and we are appointing a project management office to work with these organizations. So the basic idea is that they would have the muscle, and we will provide the alignment and the control to what they are doing regarding that training. That's our main challenge, I would say, for the coming 2 years, because the model is can be replicated in other locations, but we need to learn from these two first contracts to see how it goes and improve from there.
Thank you, Otto. This is very interesting because you are doing something which is very different from the IMC, where the IMC do not have a presence. You are there. All right. So all the best to you. In the interest of time, I shall move on to perhaps Japan. Matsunaga-san.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. During the separated discussion room, we have just introduced because our team was only 4,
yes,
Korea and Japan, and we have reconfirmed that our situation are. But along concerning the team, the questions we were posed in Japan last year, we have been started the kind of studying of ISO 20700, and there are more than 10 persons participated, including Joe, Mr. Fukuyama, and we, in order to understand ISO 20700 for Japanese, is the biggest wall is the language. Many of Japanese consultants doesn't read English well. Therefore, we have tried to translate ISO 20700 into Japanese. And almost 6 months has passed. We have succeeded to translate all languages in Japanese in order for all Japanese consultants to use it, not only understand, but to use for their work. But one thing we were slightly confused last year was there was new proposal for ISO 2700 from China. I mean, there is ISO 2700 right now, but new proposal for guidelines for management consultancy was proposed by China last year. And we were confused why we already have international guideline, but why do we need another guideline? Therefore, this year, we are trying to understand what is the difference in order not to establish double standard for this area. And we are collaborating with our government officials in Japan now, to follow what is going on. Sorry, this is just I can say now.
Thank you very much. Any of our ICMCI chair or Rima or anybody else would like to make any comment before we move on to the next country? Any comments?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
That's a very good question, and I do know that some countries had the problem to distinguish between the ISO 20700 standard that has been published and that is an established standard, and the ISO technical committee. I think the number is 342. That is a committee that is discussing different approaches of in what way can we improve the standard? And are there any other ways that could be establishing a new standard, which is not a new standard that is replacing the 20,700? It might be something new with regards to to different topics in management consulting, which is very vague. I agree. And for me personally, and we had very big discussions in the ICMCI community, we don't see really a reason to establish a new standard, but it is worth to discuss on a global level. Is there anything that should be put in a new standard, and in what way? It's just a discussion. It is not an agreement that there is a new standard. There's always something that can be improved. The proposal from China included some things we do not agree. For me, for example, I do not agree to split up the management consulting industry in a management consultant for marketing or controlling or logistics, and to establish different standards, for example. I don't think that is necessary. I don't think it's makeable, and I don't think it makes sense. But it's good to understand how different approaches of management consulting is and to communicate that to the market, because this is where I personally do agree. The better the market understands what we can deliver, the better the market is ready to buy our services. And that's actually what we want to achieve. But to reject even discussion, I think that is not the right way. If there's something on the table, we should talk about, we come together on the global level to an agreement and to a common solution. I think that is the situation now.
My question is that would that be the new standard for the Chinese management consultant? No. I think maybe Jeanette might know more about that. Jeanette, do you?
No, but
no, I was saying again,
we do not establish a new standard. It is a discussion about specifying different services. And for the time being, we do not have a new standard on the table. I do know that in China, you might know it better. You will know it better. In China, they split up the ISO 20700 standard in different standards for the Chinese management consulting industry. This is on national level, and that can be done by every country. They are free to do so, but this is not an ISO standard. And they have experience with that, and this is maybe one of the drivers why they wanted to discuss that on the global level. And again, putting something on the table to discuss that on the global level, I think if we are talking about a management consulting community, we should be ready to discuss almost everything. That doesn't mean that we agree to everything.
Yeah, Robert, just one point. I think what Masunaga's son raised is very important. Maybe it's a way of communication. Before you know it, people already say, oh, there is a China new standard. So I think we need to be savvy enough to manage that communication.
Yes, and this is why I invite you, please be part of the discussion. Please try to approach your national standardization body. And as far as I know, the typical flow is you contact them, you say, we are representing the management consulting industry in our country as IMC Mongolia, IMC Singapore, whatever, and we want to represent our industry in the new ISO Technical Committee 342. And that makes it much easier for all of us to be part of these discussions. It's not necessary to attend all the meetings. There will be usually the 2 meetings in a year, and then there are offline meetings, or there are voting process going on. But it would be good to attend at least some meetings, because on personal level, you can always discuss a little bit better. And for us as a global community, I think it's really important not to send, we as ICMCI, we agreed to send Dwight and me in the to represent ICMCI, but we are representing ICMCI, and we cannot do that alone on ourselves. we should be, the more from our ICMCI community, the better. This is life. It's always better to be present and being part of the discussion process.
Thank you, Robert. Masanuga-san, do you have any comments?
No, no, it's okay.
Okay. All right. It's a very.
See, Nick has raised his hand. I don't know if you see that.
Okay.
Lydia.
Yeah, you want to say something?
Yeah, please, just briefly.
Oh, Nick. Oh, Nick. Wonderful.
Hi.
Hi. Welcome back.
Yeah, the fact is, ISO 20700 is limited to the management of a consultancy project. And there are many other activities which management consultants are involved in, like marketing and selling. And I think there is a lot of value in discussing the standardization of some of those activities as well, particularly in light of some of the things which are now being publicized about unethical management consultancy behavior. And so I think a discussion is well worthwhile having in this committee about the other scopes of management consultancy work, which can help to self-regulate our profession as well.
Thank you, Nick. Anyone, any comments? I think the various IMC at our level, we should explore this further and see what are the next steps, okay? Right, so we move on to give other IMC an opportunity. What about Korea? Tom, are you still there, Tom? Tom,
okay, I'm here.
There? Yeah, okay, good.
And then in Korea, in Korea case, there is a, still a different situation because Korea also have the government official consultant certification systems. But that's why right now we are still have some conflict with the ICMCI, CMC certification between government official certification systems. That's why we have to try more, ICMCI, CMCs about ISO 20700. We have to more separate each the consulting domain and consultant standard base. We have to more separate, and we are still the promotion all of each countries. That's why that power will be support us to rebound, reduce some conflicts, because ICMCI is the standard will be to effect to each country's local systems. I think that is the most important thing. That's my opinion.
All right, thank you, Tom, for your comments. Next, we move on to China. Please, Mani, any comments, Mani?
Hello, Lydia. This is Mani.
Hi, Mani. Yeah.
For the new standard in China, we just know, and this is for government doing that. So I have no idea for this. We just complete the succession on April 25. The new chair is Professor Lin Wen, who is the former governor of Shandong province, academician of Chinese Academy of Engineering and Shanghai Jiao Tong University professor also. So after that, we will continue to strengthen the cooperation with ICMCI. So this is what we want to do. That is.
I see.
And we also know the essence of a consulting service is a professional service with people and knowledge. as the core. The consulting company, professional ability and the brand advantage continue the core competitiveness of the firm. So in fact, the core competence of the company, the firm includes the thought leaderships and the business activities, namely the quantity and the quality of experts, as well as the quantity and the quality of projects, reports, and activities also. Therefore, we've been very focused on the people and the knowledge, namely the qualification of experts and the collection of the practice and the report also. So we will do more social responsibilities in our section to improve our consulting. That's all.
婉仪，我可以讲几句话吗？给他们都明白。
好啊。
So you mentioned this initiative, the China Academy of Engineering, 中国科学院工程学院 is that right?
Yes.
If I am right, I think behind them there is a consulting association, which are focusing on the technical side. I know them very well also. So the issue could be, the technical engineering consulting, which is a very powerful, by the way, very powerful. That's why you said the Shandong ex-mayor was also behind it. So Robert, I think we need to look at it, but I think we can also diplomatically look at it from the observers slash sort of collaborator initiative. Our member is the 中国企业联合会. How do you say in full in English, Ban Yi?
China Enterprise Confederation.
Yeah, China Enterprise Confederation, CEC. Under them, there is a Management Consulting Committee, right? There's still the structure. Whereas the engineering side, like it or not, they are quite powerful and quite prominent. Indeed, I can share with you all, to the final selection of the two, they were quite disappointed. They were not selected. Instead, give the membership to CEC, the Management Consulting Committee, MMC, Management, what they call it, China Management Consulting Committee under the China Enterprise Confederation. So that you know the dynamic behind. And 中国科学院的科学学院，你说那个院长是前山东省长，对吗？
他是院士，他是院士。
Okay, correct.
他是院士。
The fellow, the fellow, very powerful. The China Academy fellows, very powerful. All the top scientists, engineers, and so on. But it could be a good thing. It could be a good thing. But Man Yi said, do you understand? Man Yi keeps emphasizing on the social and the human resource. I think Man Yi subtly also try to differentiate from the engineering and technical consultancy. Man Yi, is that what you want to convey, your message? That you are not so-called hardcore consultant. You are more human resource, right? Whereas the other party, they say, yes, we are technical, we are engineering, we are IT and whatever, but, all right, management consulting is also science and technology. Therefore, we should be representing in the ICMCI. So that you know the discussion I had with them many, many years ago. So that I provide some of the background to you all. Okay. It could be a good thing. It could be a good thing, if they are interested in looking at what more they can do. Like what Robert said, they kind of like propose consulting to be sliced into many vertical. Could be, the future consulting market could develop into that many verticals. Who knows?
Thank you, Shinlet. I think we now have to move to Mongolia, last but not least, to the host. Would the host like to share with us your thoughts, please? MCI?
Yes,
question?
thank you. Thank you so much. And today's meeting gave us so much to think and reflect, and it was very interesting to hear the ICMCI strategy, which gives us quite a good background to revisit our strategy, and certainly make some refresh into our plan, our operational plan. And there are some very good ideas, and of course that what Nick mentioned about the assessment, which we have to prepare and pass it well. And and also the competence framework, definitely we've been quite strictly adhering the competence framework when we try to determine the consultant's path to CMC. So what's been mentioned in today's discussion, such as to have the intermediate certification, we've been already attempting to do that. So we had our local certificate, which is based on the target to CMC, and we've been running that program like 7 years. But now, from our experience, what we learned is that there is still bridge between that MCMC, which is Mongolian Certified Management Consultant title, but still needs some coaching program, which needs to give some startup consultants to have some real life experience in management consultancy. So we've been doing that in last year after COVID, because we had the new sponsorship program with GIZ, which is our one of the sponsors of today's meeting. And so that was very good program where we were able to train consultants from rural area to help them to qualify for MCMC certification, which is the one step before the CMC. So what I'm trying to say is, in short, that it's vital for us to define the path to CMC, how the consultants can develop their career. So we've been focusing on this in this area in 2021 and 2, and our stakeholders, such as the sponsors like EBRD today, mentioned that we are lacking the number of consultants who are qualified for running the consulting projects for SMEs. So we need a lot to do in terms of creating more awareness of consultants who should be improving the quality of service by attending our programs as ISO 2700 and subsequently going into other programs of MCMC training courses and the coaching programs. And these programs we have to now look again, think again, as Robert mentioned, that he today gave us good guideline about that. So there's a lot happening in Mongolia in terms of development of demand and supply of consultancy services, and for developing the consultants from one hand, from other hand, that there is a more demand from especially SME sector for consultants consultancy, which is amazing because for only the country who are just emerging into new system to have this kind of, exposure to management consultancy in short, like 10, 20 years of time, which we find it's quite fascinating. So, so we have new stakeholders are interested in working with ICMCI. So the three pillars we just mentioned, or Lydia mentioned to us, it's quite logical or applicable in our case. Ethics and standards and knowledge sharing, and why is that there are definitely the number of stakeholders interested in ICMCI activities are increasing, which is good sign, like banking association or association of professional accountants or major banks or big four, all of those, the people who are called themselves advisors or consultants are interested to be properly trained in management consultancy. So all of those, what we've discussed, and also the other IMC's approaches to these three questions we were asked. These are very interesting and highly given us some good hints, and we have to think in our executive management team or board level and submit our proposal and ideas. So that's basically, in short. I could talk more, but I think it's enough, I guess. If you have any questions, I'm delighted to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Tuya, for your very elaborate answer. Anyway, I'd like to do the closing now because just want to be on time. The reason is because you have a very long 4 hours, on this meeting. So in closing, I would greatly value the generosity of our speakers, sponsors, and participants in contributing their time, effort, resources to make this event impactful. My grateful thanks and appreciation to all speakers for their enlightening, insightful, and rich nuggets of wisdom. And also to all participants who asked very interesting questions. Thank you. My hope is that each and every one has gained new insights on EBRD support to SME development, as well as considering in wanting to participate on their projects, enriched by the ICMCI visionary strategy, sharpen our minds on the new competency framework implementation, enlightened by the Genghis Khan management, inspired by the best practice of winning the Gold Constantinus International Award. All right, what was the secret formula? Market watchers said weak global growth has dampened demand for consultancy worldwide. But the impact from these headwinds could vary. We could leverage on new industry trends, technology implementation, ESG, artificial intelligence revolution, optimization and operations transformation, as well as market expansion. Well, it is also important that Robert, our chair, highlighted about the representation, that we should do that pillar. In other words, consultants will increasingly need to focus on strategic alliances to forge meaningful connections, collaboration, and partners with a broader business ecosystem of stakeholders to create stronger value proposition to generate growth both for your own IMC as well as to the world, right? So I think that's all I have. Before you leave, I have a final request to ask you, before we close, please complete the feedback form. You younger, I think you had the feedback form, right? Please complete the feedback form. We will issue you a certificate of attendance for 4 CPD points for your next renewal of membership. Your feedback will help us shape our future meetings and to ensure that the contents continues to stay current and relevant. Okay, I look forward to see all of you in the EuroHub meeting on 6th of June next month, and also meeting you at last in person in October in Amman, Jordan. I leave you with the concluding quote by John Wooden. He says, "Make each day your masterpiece," unquote. Have a good day, good afternoon, and good evening.